Welcome to Innovation Brief by IdeaScale, where we turn your work team into innovators.
As leaders in innovation, one of the things you always hear is that you got to understand your customer needs, right? Really, got to dive deep. But how do you cut through all that noise, all those opinions, to get to the good stuff, to the insights that really fuel innovation?
That is where qualitative research can really help you out, because it's not just about the data itself, it's about understanding the why behind all that data, behind the what. Qualitative research helps us explore these complex, often subjective experiences that people are having, especially with, your products and your services.
And I think what's interesting here is, unlike quantitative research where you're looking at large data sets and really trying to measure things, qualitative research is much more about nuance. It's about understanding people on a deeper level.
And think of it like this. You can have tons of data, market data, telling you people want a certain feature, but with qualitative research, you can understand why they actually want it. And understanding that can be the difference between, just meeting expectations and really coming up with something disruptive, something that's truly innovative.
So quantitative research can tell you what's happening, but qualitative research helps you understand why and ultimately how to innovate effectively. So where do we even begin with qualitative research? What does that even look like?
Well, I think it all starts with picking the right approach, the right design for the research that you're doing. There are a bunch of different approaches, and they're all good for different things. So, for instance, let's say you want to understand how people are really experiencing a new AI tool. A phenomenological approach, one that focuses on individual experiences, that would be a really good fit.
Yeah, because if you can really get at the core of how people feel when they're using new technology, you can figure out how to make it better. Right? You can design it in a way that really meets their needs, even needs they might not even know they have.
Exactly. Now, let's imagine a different scenario. You're taking a product to a new market, maybe even a global market. That's when you might consider an ethnographic approach. What does that mean? It means really immersing yourself in that new culture. You observe behaviors, you try to understand local beliefs and practices. That deep cultural understanding can make or break your product launch in a new environment.
It's almost like you're becoming a cultural anthropologist for your company, right? You're trying to uncover those hidden codes that are driving consumer behavior in different markets.
Yeah.
So choosing the right research design, that's huge. That's the foundation for good qualitative research. What are some other types of designs that people might consider?
Another good one is grounded theory. It lets you build a theory about whatever you're looking at from the ground up, from the data that you collect. So say you're building a new innovation program, inside your company. Grounded theory would mean interviewing people, all different levels of employees, analyzing their feedback, and then you start to see these themes, these patterns emerge, and that informs the design of your program.
So you're not starting with some preconceived notion. You're letting the data lead you to new insights and maybe even a completely new approach to encouraging innovation within your company. That's really cool.
It is. And we've also got, things like case studies. Those let you dig into specific examples of success or failure, really valuable lessons to be learned there. Or you can look at narrative research. That focuses on individual stories. How do people connect with brands, with products on an emotional level? That can tell you a lot.
Right. So many different approaches. With all these choices, picking the right research design can feel a little daunting, right? Where do you even start?
Well, I think the most important thing is to really understand what you're trying to learn from the research in the first place. What are those burning questions that you need to answer to actually move the needle on innovation? Once you know that, then you can choose the right approach, the right design much more easily.
Right. You got to have a destination in mind before you can figure out how to get there. Okay, so you've got your research question, you've chosen a design. What are some of the methods you can actually use to, gather these insights? What does that look like in practice?
Well, there are a bunch of really useful methods. And like we were talking about with designs, the method you pick really depends on, what you're trying to learn. For example, interviews are a great way to get in-depth understanding, particularly about individual experiences. Imagine you're a CIO and you're trying to figure out what are the pain points that people are hitting with the current software. A one-on-one interview can give you some really amazing insights that you might not get in a group setting.
Yeah, it's almost like you're getting a direct line to their thoughts and feelings, right? You're not just learning about what they're doing, but why they're doing it, what's working for them and what isn't.
Right, exactly. And on the other hand, sometimes you want to see those behaviors and interactions in a more natural setting.
Hmm.
That's where observation comes in. Like, let's say you're designing a new collaborative workspace. Just watching how teams interact, how they work together, that can really give you insights into how to improve things, how to make it more productive, improve communication, all of that.
So sometimes actions really do speak louder than words,
Right.
right? Like you might see these unspoken needs or even behaviors that people don't even realize they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And then, focus groups. Focus groups can be great because you can get the collective wisdom of a group. Like imagine you've got a bunch of product developers and you're trying to come up with some cool new features for an app. A focus group, if it's run well, can give you tons of ideas, a bunch of different perspectives on how to approach that challenge.
You're almost like harnessing the power of brainstorming,
Hmm.
but in a more like structured way. You're
Yeah.
bringing a group of people together, different stakeholders, and you're getting insights that you wouldn't get from just talking to them one-on-one or observing them individually.
Absolutely. And I can't leave out case studies. Sometimes you really want to learn from the past, see what others have done, both successes and failures, studying how someone else, maybe even a competitor, how they pulled off a similar innovation. That can be super helpful. Avoid pitfalls.
Right. It's like learning from the experience of others.
Mhm.
So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Those case studies can really give you those aha moments.
That's it. And of course, every method has its pros and cons. It's about finding the right combination of methods that works for your specific needs and your target audience.
So it's not like a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. You've
Right.
got to tailor your approach, right? It's got to make sense for what you're trying to achieve, which makes sense. But, okay, so we've talked about design, we've talked about methods. Now, how do you make sure that those insights that you're gathering, that they're actually good? How do you make sure they're reliable, that you can actually trust them?
It really is. It's more than just picking the right method. It's about how do you approach the whole process. And one thing that's really important is like rigor. You want to be like really systematic about it.
Yeah.
So documenting everything carefully, making sure the data is collected consistently, and then, being transparent about how you analyze things. Really important.
So it's like you're approaching it with that same like scientific mindset, that attention to detail
Sure.
that you would with any other research.
Absolutely. And one thing to remember is qualitative research, it's iterative. It's not like you do it all at once and you're done. Be ready to change things up as you go, as you're gathering new info. Like maybe you're doing these interviews and all of a sudden you see this theme emerging that you weren't expecting. You got to be flexible, be responsive to what the data is telling you. That's how you're going to get those really groundbreaking insights.
It's almost like you're having a conversation with the data, right?
Right.
It's leading you, guiding you to new areas that you might not have thought of before.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think, like, at the end of the day, the goal is to take all those insights, those rich insights that you get from qualitative research, and actually do something with them, right? So when you're sharing what you've learned, focus on the so what. Okay, we learned all this, so what does that mean for our strategy? How do we make better products? How do we create better customer experiences? How do we actually drive real change based on what we've learned?
It's about closing that loop, right? Taking the data, turning it into knowledge, and then using that knowledge to get results.
Absolutely. If you can, really embrace that, the rigor, the iterative process, and really focus on action, on making things happen, that's when qualitative research can be truly powerful. For any leader, for anyone who's trying to understand like the human side of innovation, that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, it's been really eye-opening, this whole conversation.
Yeah.
I think for anyone listening, it's clear that qualitative research it's a huge asset. If you
Yeah.
really want to get innovation right, you got to understand people.
I couldn't agree more. If you can tap into those insights, those rich qualitative insights, you can make better decisions, you can create solutions that have real impact, and ultimately you can turn your work team into innovators, which is what we all want, right?
That's it. Well said. And if you're ready to take your innovation to the next level, go to IdeaScale.com and book a demo. You can even get a free trial. See how their platform can help you make it all happen. New episodes of the Innovation Brief by IdeaScale drop every Tuesday and Friday, so hit that subscribe button and leave us a comment below. We love hearing from you. Until next time, keep innovating.